Greetings, everybody. Experience points and old school D&D. Part two. So the previous one we talked about relativity. What that is, it's kind of like progressive taxing, but the difference is, and I wanted to clarify this, in the old rules, you can't exceed 1 for 1. So even if the group goes against something really big, they're not going to get a bonus on that, taking out that monster. It's not. That's why coming up with other ways to give experience points was important, and we saw that happen in Art and Grimoire started to make those suggestions. But in the original Minute Magic rules, it's progressive. You don't get points for killing things that are an easy cakewalk for you, or you get very few, and you got to do some math. You got to do some division. Okay. You only get the 1 for 1 when you're at that level, or you're taking on something above your level. Okay. But it mentioned some other things. One of the things it talked about was the experience cap per level. So you're like, what? One of the things people did wrong all the time, if we were going to talk about that, was they just kept adding. And, I know I played some games where it was like, okay, you guys are now, 2 levels more advanced than you were before. Well, it's supposed to go level by level by level. I know that, looking back to childhood, I can think, and then later on, somewhere along the way, I picked up, no, you can't just shoot through. She got older, read the rules more, cognitively sunk in more. But that also means you can see how things like the mile marker system, the milestone, I think is what it's called. I always say mile marker because that's what I deal with. But milestones, in that, the group achieved all the goals of the venture, therefore they go up to X level. You could see how someone would go to that system rather than worry about the math. And if you were around when all these new ideas were coming out, which I was kind of around, so I got to kind of read things in magazines and stuff and see different game systems as they were being developed and coming out in their first edition, whether I got them or not. Usually I knew somebody who did have them, and we could play those games and we could understand people's ideas. We could read people's ideas. Something that's not happening currently. And because you brought home the little magazine and you read it and reread it, and little flyers and rule books, stuff really sunk in. It's like everybody's just got ADHD now, I swear. No. You don't allow yourself to digest anything. Which you should. So, caps. You just don't keep adding and just shoot through levels. You also don't get rewarded for killing chickens, which came up in a game. My nephew asked, can I level up by just killing this farm's chickens? And everyone was like, no, that's not how the game is played, dude. It's not a video game. It's not a video game. You can lose experience points. There's monsters that suck that stuff out of you. You could get damaged in such a way that you go down in levels. Something to think about. So, but it also mentioned prime requisites. So, what are those in the game, in original D&D, and why are they important? Well, prime requisites have to do with those abilities, specifically strength, intelligence, and wisdom. Super important. Okay? So, strength is the prime requisite for fighters. Clerics can use strength on a 3 for 1 basis in their prime requisite area, which is wisdom. for purposes of gaining experience only. Okay, strength will also aid in opening traps and so on. Intelligence is the prime requisite for magical types. Both fighters and clerics can use it in their prime request area, strength and wisdom respectively, on a 2-for-1 basis. Again, it would only be for experience. Intelligence will also affect referees' decisions as to whether or not certain action would be taken, and it allows additional languages to be spoken. So just an abilities note there. If the referee thinks your character is too dumb to know to do something, then you don't get to do that. Okay. Wisdom is the prime requisite for clerics. It may be used on a 3-for-1 basis by fighters and on a 2-for-1 basis by magic users in their respective prime requisite areas. Wisdom rating will act much as does that for intelligence. Thank you, old D&D. Immediately caused confusion on that one. But that is why those three are so important, though. It's kind of been lost, I think, into the modern system. I think it has. It's not quite, because you're not doing this. So let's look at how those prime requisites affect your experience points. First of all, they tell you what a low score, an average score, and a high score is. Low score is 3 to 8. Average is 9 to 12. And high is 13 to 18. This is important stuff. All right. Prime requisite, 15 or more. Add 10% to earned experience. Prime requisite, 13 or 14. Add 5% to earned experience. Prime requisite of 9 to 12. Average, no bonus or penalty. Prime requisite 8 or 7, minus 10% from earned experience. Prime requisite 6 or less, minus 20% from earned experience. In original D&D, prime requisites were important. They either hurt your advancement, didn't do much of anything if you were in that average zone, or they helped you a lot. And the fact that they gave, hey, well, you can choose, here's a choice, but, it's a 3-to-1, 2-to-1. So in other words, really, you had to have a character that you would want to try to do that with. Is interesting. But nonetheless, I remember prime requisites being important too in AD&D 1E, so I'll probably be pulling that to take a look. Are they important basic? I don't remember. I'll have to look. But I wanted to explain to you guys why prime requisites were so important and what they were talking about in the old D&D rules there, which I tend to default to more than I realized. But it's more than AD&D. The point being is something to think about. If you want to make all the abilities, and you're basically playing a D&D type game, then you need to look at how are these abilities useful? Or is any confusion that people have about them? And are there older rules that make them more useful than there currently are? Having them be prime requisites that actually are significantly impact the characters. Yeah. It's something you should probably do, in my opinion. It's something that people should do. I just see people just generally assigning experience points on a very arbitrary kind of level. And maybe you want more nuanced. Everyone have a great day. Bye.